Hi, welcome to the Garden Light Shop. In this video we'll be discussing what happens one day if your lights don't work. Rare because the system is robust and built to last, but it can happen. So we'll be talking about various different things in this video that you can check to narrow down which part may be a problem, may need resyncing, repairing, such like. So to really point you in the right direction so you know where to look and what to look for. There are really sort of 3 or 4 main things to really check. Firstly would be the transformer. Is it working okay? Is it producing a 12 volt output, enough of a 12 volt output to power all your lights in the system? Cables. Have you got problems with a cable? Have you got damage to the cable? If a cable is cut, generally the lights before the break will work, but lights after won't. If you've got partial damage to the cable, so you've just had a nick out of one side of the cable, that causes other problems because the system might still work, but the transformer will be working a lot harder to compensate for that damage. As a result, the transformer will get hot. It will keep going like that until suddenly it just says it's had enough, and it will just die, and you probably need replacing. The other things might be that you've got problems with one of our switches, that perhaps it needs resyncing, or you've switched the power off to the transformer for a period of time and it needs resetting, that sort of thing. So really what we're going to do is we're going to just go through stage by stage the different things to check should, in the unlikely event that you switch your lights on, or they should switch on, they don't come on. Right, now the first one to really check is the transformer. This is the backbone of the system. It converts mains voltage down to a steady 12 volt, either AC or DC output, depending on the transformer. Some of ours are AC, some of them are DC. And that goes on to power the system. Our lighting system operates, all the LEDs operate under AC or DC without a problem. So it really is about checking to see if you've got an output for the transformer. Firstly, the transformer should always be wall mounted, never buried, never in water, shouldn't be left on the decking or on the patio. So they should either be wall mounted, kept inside in a shed, garage or indoors, or in one of our dry boxes, which we talk about in other videos. But that's where they should sit, and once they're like that, they'll work comfortably and should be fine. All our transformers basically are designed with a certain amount of output. Okay, so the first thing really you need to check is that you haven't added to your system and now your transformer is in a state of overload. So if you've got a 24 watt transformer, have you put more than 24 watts of loading on the system? If you have, that transformer will be working incredibly hard to compensate for it, and eventually it'll just die, and it'll have enough. So you've got to check your loading. Okay, so count the lights, count the wattage of the lights, work out, make sure you haven't overloaded the transformer. The second thing to check is the actual transformer working? The best way to do that is to unplug a light out of your system. Simply unscrew the collar, unplug the light, plug it directly into the output of the transformer, switch the transformer on. If that light is working, there's a good chance that your transformer is fine, and it's not the transformer, so you need to be looking elsewhere potentially for the fault. There is a slight tricky bit of the testing like that. Some of our transformers, the bigger ones, have a minimum of a 5 watt load. Generally they will work with less than a 5 watt load coming off them. So if you plugged in a little 2 watt light into one of our transformers, it should work. It might flash, but providing you're getting light output probably means the transformer is fine. Always when you're unplugging a light, try and go for the biggest light that you possibly can and plug in, because that will give you a clear indication whether the transformer's working or not. The other things to check on transformers are each transformer has obviously a plug. In that plug is a fuse. check that the fuse is still okay and it hasn't blown for any reason. Try it with another fuse that you know works. Generally should be a 3 amp fuse in there, so pop another 3 amp fuse in, plug it in, lights on, don't know. On our biggest transformer, the 150 watt, there is an output fuse on it. Now when you get it, it will have, I'm not sure if you can see there, it's got a little bag with a replacement fuse on it. Keep that safe, don't bin that, or put it somewhere where you're going to forget where you put it. You can leave it on top if the transformer's in a box or inside, it's perfectly happy on top. But the transformer does have a fused output on it. Now the fused output is here, that's where underneath this there's a black plastic cap, you pull that off, and then there's a white cap, pull that off, get a screwdriver, unscrew the fuse holder, and it comes out, and you'll see the fuse in there. Now it's a glass fuse, we keep spares of these if you're trying to find them, but because it's a glass fuse, you can see the fuse wire inside. If that fuse wire has blown, clear that it's blown, pop another fuse in and see if that works, and that might just solve your problem. It might just be that you've had some kind of short or overload on the system and it's taken the fuse out, something like that. So pop that back in. The other thing is, obviously, if you do get your transformer back up and running, another indication of whether the transformer, if you've got a problem in the system, is whether the transformer starts to get hot. They're in the main toroidal transformers, so they will get warm once they've been run for a while. So that's quite normal for them to be warm, but not hot. If you notice your transformer is hot, turn it off, and then either give us a call, email us, and we can help with finding out what's perhaps going wrong with it. The other thing to check, any visual signs. If a transformer has blown or it's got a short on it, you might find some kind of cracking in the case. If that's happened, again, the transformer probably is beyond repair, but it doesn't mean that the transformer is the only cause of your system being out. Something within the system may have caused it to fail, and we will discuss those next. So what could cause a transformer to fail in the system? There are various things. If you came to us and said your transformer's not working and you've plugged a light into it and there's no output on it, we would always suggest that you check a few things, because if a problem exists within your system, changing a transformer and putting a new one in might only be a short-term fix, and the new transformer might also fail eventually. So it's important that you do some fairly basic checks, which I'll discuss in a minute, that will safeguard that happening. One of the main ones is damage to cables. Okay, so like I said previously, if you've got a severed cable, anything after it won't work because it's severed, obviously, but what the lights before it should still work. Okay, but if you've got partial damage to a cable, that's going to cause the transformer to work incredibly hard trying to compensate for it, and eventually the transformer, like I said, will just say he's had enough, conk out, and that's it. So we would always recommend you check the cables for signs of damage. Now that can be quite hard. You could have a loss of cable in the system, but it's not just the main cable. It'd be the cable from the main cable to your lights that need checking as well. And generally, unless you've been gardening or digging anywhere near the cables, it'll be any exposed cables that I would recommend you check. And just clean the cables off, run your hands along them. You'll feel if there's any kind of damage. If there is damage, it can be repaired. So you don't need to replace the whole cable, but it can be repaired. We do the little repair kits for them. They're available under our accessories section. So a very quick and easy way, repair it, probably have to replace the transformer, and you should be good to go. The other thing that might crop up, and we've seen this probably in the last couple of years become a little bit of an issue, is mud, any ground mounted lights having mud inside them. Unfortunately, ants seem to have become a bit of a problem in the UK, and they seem to like nesting inside some of the fittings. So what we would always ask you to do is to take the tops off fittings, that sort of thing. It could be a ground mounted spotlight or a post light. Check to see if there's mud inside. It could be ants nesting as well. Generally, if you empty out all the mud, dry and clean it, it has to be dry, put it all back together, it works perfectly. It's no long-term damage with that, but it might just cause a problem with the transformer if left long-term like that. You could seal up any holes with silicone or some kind of bung to stop ants from getting back in there. It doesn't happen very often, but some gardens seem to be a little bit more prone than others. So it's just again something for you to go out and have a look and check for. The other thing might be that you've got water ingress in a light. Again, very, very rare, but if a light's full up with water, it might cause a problem and stop the system from working and eventually cause the transformer to fail. So a cursory check of all the lights to make sure that inside where the LEDs are, they're free from water, free from mud, and nice and clear and clean, and that's all you really need to do. The other reason your lights might not be working is that one of the switches, especially a 12-volt switch that you've bought from us, a plug and play 12-volt switch, is not working. Sometimes because the switch isn't working, you think the transformer is at fault. So again, what we'd always ask you to do is to bypass the switch by unplugging it from the system, plug your lighting cable directly into the transformer, switch on. If your lights work, it's a pretty good indication that the problem lies with your switch. Then you need to just investigate, depending on the switch, what could the problem be, and then we can get it sorted from there. The most popular switch that we've sold over the years is the timer sensor. This is a great semi-automatic switch. It plugs into the transformer. Your lighting cable goes into the output. That will then go onto a wall, and you've got a little LED display present. If that display is not present, okay, it could be either the transformer's not powering it or the switch is at fault. Okay, so this switch has to be wall mounted. If it's not wall mounted, it could let in water. It's designed to be wall mounted vertically like that, not that way, or hanging. I've seen them hanging from transformers that have been wall mounted like that. It has to be wall mounted, and that's why it's weatherproof that way. So simply unplugging the timer sensor and plugging your lighting cable directly into the transformer. If the lights are working and the display wasn't, it would tell you that this switch is at fault. Now in some instances, if you unplug the timer sensor from the system for a couple of minutes and plug it back in, it might just reset itself and the display springs to life. Providing you've got a display on that and all the different functions of the timer sensor are working, it should be fine. The other thing that we do generally get, the biggest problem with these, is we'll get clients say that this is going on and off, your lights are going off on and off all night long. This mainly is because you've positioned a light too close to the light sensor, and the light sensor at dusk will switch your lights on. Okay, the light from the light that's too close then is picked up by the light sensor, it switches your lights off, and then it goes round in this continuous loop all night. What you need to do to rectify this is move the light away from this light sensor. Either the light or the light sensor can be moved, and it could also be a light that's not in the system. So it could be a security light that you've got locally, or it could be a street light if this is out in front of your property, that sort of thing. But any light that it picks up will affect it. So that's the main reason that we get emails reported that this isn't working or the system is flashing. So always check, make sure you haven't got a light too close to it. If you think it's a light, just unplug it from the system, or move it further away, shield it, point the light further away, that sort of thing, so no light is on this, and then try it for a couple of nights and see what happens. The other thing is that sometimes people during summer will switch the power supply off to the transformer because they think they're not going to use the lights during the summer because we've got the light evenings. Then they go to switch them on, and this is true with the remote receiver as well. They then start to get problems. Every time you take the power away from this sensor, it has to recalibrate itself. It has to judge and see varying different levels of light for it to work. So when you first switch power this on, it might take 24-48 hours for it to really settle down and start working as it should. But if you keep turning the supply off to it, every time you switch it back on, you've got that recalibration, recalibrating period that's going to happen, which causes problems within that. It might not act as you expect it to. It might come on too soon, too late, that sort of thing. The other thing with the timer sensor, if you ever have a power failure or you turn the power off, it comes back on the default and it's an A in the display, which is an automatic dusk to dawn feature. So if you came home from, you've been away or something like that, and you notice your lights are on all night and they shouldn't be, check the display. You've possibly had a power failure, and that when it's come back on, it's gone to A. Just simply turn it, change the settings back to the setting that you want, and it will work fine. It's a great unit. It's very robust. We have sold thousands of these units over the years, and they've proved to be very, very reliable and do a great job. You may have one of our remote receiver packs, and this could be the problem, which is why your lights aren't working. So this needs checking as well. The receiver will generally plug into your transformer. You might have an extension cable between, and then you sync the receiver to the remote, hold the big button down for 5-6 seconds and hit a number on the remote, and then you can turn your lights on and off. Occasionally, if you switch your transformer, the power supply to your transformer off for any period of time, the sync in between these two, the remote and receiver, will be lost, and you'd have to repair it. That is the biggest cause of problems with these by far. So all we would suggest you do is we would do a full master reset on this receiver. So whilst it's powered on, you'd hold the big button down for 15 to 20 seconds. You'd have a little blue indicator light flashing. When it's got to about 20 seconds, let go of the button. It's wiped the setting properly and reset between the remote and the receiver. Then you need to try sync them back together again. So same big button on the receiver, and this isn't an on-off button, it's only a syncing button, by the way. Hold this button down 5-6 seconds and then hit the corresponding number that you want on the remote, and it should work again. Again, like all our other switches, this one needs to be wall mounted. It can't be upside down, like swinging off a transformer or anything like that. It can't be on the floor. It's got to be wall mounted, or in a dry box, or indoors, or inside a shed or garage. It comes with a little wall mounting plate. Please make sure you wall mount it. That's how it's designed to be done. About 1 metre off the ground to get the optimum range is good as well. But a great little unit. Again, been in the range and sold many of these over the years. Hundreds and hundreds of them, and they just work, and they've proved a very good, reliable unit. Okay, so the last switch that we do that may be causing you a problem if you've got one, again very, very rare, is our newish, it's been around for about a year, Wi-Fi smart switch. Again, like all our switches, is designed to be wall mounted. It does come with a little spike, so it could be spiked into the ground, box mounted, but it can't be dangling or left on the floor. It needs a reasonably strong 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi signal for it to work, and once it's picked that up, it should then enable you to switch it on and off remotely via the app, by setting up timers, that sort of thing. You can even set up, if you put your location in the app, you can set up dusk on and a timed off, so it becomes a very fully automatic system. We haven't had any reported issues at all with these, so I'm really kind of clutching at straws what what could be going wrong with them. I've got one of these myself and it's just been bulletproof. But if you did ever experience problems and it didn't seem to be working, and you already know that your transformer's working because, like I said, you've isolated, taken the switch out, and you've plugged your lighting cable directly into the transformer, and your lights start working, and the only common thing that's left to try is the switch, and it's a Wi-Fi switch. I would check, make sure you still got that Wi-Fi signal there. Wi-Fi signals do change in the home, and they can get congested. The more things you put on them, the more bandwidth it takes up, and generally the things that suffer are the things that are furthest away, and the signal might just become that little bit weaker and it's not strong enough for it to work. So the way to tell is just to perhaps take your mobile phone out, stand where this is sat with your mobile phone, just check it makes you've got a good few bars Wi-Fi signal on there. If you have, check the app. It might say that this switch is offline, okay, in which case your options really are is repairing this switch back to the app. So what I would recommend first to do is there's a little rubber button on the back of it down for, I think it's about 6 seconds. The light on the front will start to flash. That will go into pairing mode. Go onto the app. In the top right hand corner of the app, you'll see a plus button. Hit the plus button and then go through the repairing sequence for repairing the switch to the app. And hopefully that should be all fine and it'll all be back up and running. If your Wi-Fi signal isn't strong enough, you either got to move this closer so it gets a stronger Wi-Fi signal, or boost your Wi-Fi signal. There really is no other way of doing it. It does need a strong Wi-Fi signal to work. It's got to be 2.4 gigahertz. It will not run on 5 gigahertz. If that becomes a problem, and I think from recollection we had someone a while back that changed their internet router and they couldn't get this to resync back onto their new router via Wi-Fi, and the reason was that they only switched on the 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi channel, and this won't work on 5 gigahertz. It's only 2.4. So yeah, we've sold loads and loads of these units. It seems to be the way forward. Everyone wants an app and to be able to control it remotely from their phone and that sort of thing, or tablet. And it's proved to be a very, very good, solid, reliable unit, going forward. Hopefully that's given you some tips to go out and try and diagnose the problem with the system. Generally, most things are very easy to find and very easy to rectify and get yourself back up and running. And occasionally, like everything in life, with age things wear out and they need replacing. It's just unfortunate. Nothing's built forever, and although our system is incredibly robust and it's got a good strong warranty on it, occasionally things do fail. Sometimes they fail within warranty. It's just a little bit of bad luck, unfortunately. Sometimes it fails in 8, 9, 10 years time, and needs replacing. The only thing I would say is that our systems are from Techmar. They're a Dutch manufacturer. They've been going for over 25 years. They only do garden lighting, so low voltage garden lighting. So they are experts in garden lighting. They know what they're talking about. We've been with them for over 15 years. There's nothing we haven't heard. There's no silly questions that you can ask us that we haven't heard before. So, please give us a shout if you get stuck, you've tried some of these things that I've gone through on the video, and you're still at a bit of a loss. We're here to help. But the other thing I would also like to mention is that the Techmar system comes with a warranty. Because it's low voltage, we get people that do all sorts of things with the system. They introduce other people's fittings, they use different transformers, drivers, that sort of thing, and they sort of cobble it all together. They do little hardwire joints. When you get into that situation, it's very hard for us to help you diagnose what the fault is, because we can't verify what you're using. If you're using another maker transformer because you found one that's cheaper, or there's one in your shed from a system going back years ago, not all transformers, not all switches, not all lights, not all LEDs are built the same way. So it makes it very hard for us to be able to advise you what the problem is. So we'd always recommend, if you're going to buy a system, stick to that system and those system components. It doesn't have to be ours. But you know, if it's another make and there's not many on the market, but if you go with it, just stick with those lights, stick with those cables, stick with those transformers and switches. It keeps your warranty intact and preserves that warranty, because if you come to us and you've put foreign LEDs into a Techmar system, we can't tell you whether that LED has caused a transformer to fail or caused an overload on the system. We had a few years back a client that wanted to use Philips branded MR16 LEDs in one of our spotlights. So we supplied the fittings without the LEDs. It kept blowing the transformers. The upshot is we got the LEDs, we tested them. They were rated at 6 watts on the packaging and all the manufacturer's information. When we put them on test, they were running at 11 watts. So consequently, his transformers, every time he switched that system on, was being overloaded. And after a few weeks, the transformer just gave in and stopped working. We replaced quite a few transformers before we all realised what was going on, because we didn't believe that a manufacturer would lie about the output of its LED. If it's stated at 6 watts on the box, you expect it to be 6 watts. All the Techmars are tested, all their LEDs. If we say it's 4 watts, it's 4 watts, or it might be a little bit less. We might round it up for calculation purposes, but it's not a 4 watt LED. It's not going to be running at 6 watts of power, because we don't want you to calculate your loading on your transformer and inadvertently be overloading it. So it's not in our interest to do it, because you know we'd be eating through transformers, because they're all failing due to being overworked. So I'd always recommend sticking with the same manufacturer's goods, because it will work and it does preserve the warranty. I hope you found this helpful. Like I said, if you're in any doubt, we're here to help. That's what we do. We do it Monday to Friday without a problem. Just give us a call or email us via the website, whatever, and we're more than happy to help. Thank you for watching.